Our last story that we should discuss, but not take too long to discuss, is about Bonnie Blue. Now, Bonnie Blue, so this is from US Magazine. Bonnie Blue is an OnlyFans creator, and she became famous because she wanted to have sex with 1,000 men in one day. So that's, if you've heard that name, it's her and another lady who are like, I guess, racing each other. It's really weird. Couldn't be me. For a myriad of reasons. I mean, take out the whole Christianity thing. It's kind of gross. Like, yeah. Anyway, this is a whole nother conversation. Okay, so OnlyFans star Bonnie Blue addresses baby rumors. I would never lie about pregnancy. OnlyFans creator Bonnie Blue clarified speculation online that she is expecting a baby. I am not pregnant, Blue said. I'd say about a week ago, there were rumors about me being pregnant, quite a lot. Look, you can add a comment about what? According to Blue, she only started the speculation. The influencer teased on Instagram about cravings. Last 24 hours, I hinted never confirmed when I was pregnant. Like I said, before I was, this quote. So this is where it gets interesting. Like I said, she added, quote, like for me, back before I was a massive slut, she used the word slut, Army, I tried to get pregnant for a long time. It was honestly the most lonely experience because you don't really have friends. It's something that's spoken about much. Blue, who is best known for her goal to sleep with 1,000 men a day, had dealt with fertility struggles before signing up for OnlyFans. Also, IVF is expensive, and even buying pregnancy tests at the time I was living in Australia, living off the savings, every month is expensive. And then you're buying an ovulation test and all that. Blue now wants to use her newfound media attention and extra income to cover a stranger's IVF costs. Quote, I want to do good and I want to do better. I want to pleasure people and I don't just mean guys. I think paying for someone's IVF journey is something I'm passionate about. Now, the way the story came out says she was pregnant. Now that I'm reading the story, she's not pregnant. And okay, so now I'm reading more of this story. Blue's pregnancy denial comes days after fellow says positive Lily Phillips claimed to be expecting her first baby. Now, let's see what this Lily Phillips thing is doing. As you can see, I don't really prep for the show, everyone. I just copy and paste, and this is interesting. Okay, now, Lily Blue. Not Lily Bloom. That's from It Ends With Us. Lily Phillips. Lily Bloom did have a baby, though. OnlyFans saw Lily Phillips known for her goal to sleep with 1,000 men. Says she's pregnant. OnlyFans creator Lily Phillips is pregnant with her first baby. The secret is out. Let's actually see if she's actually pregnant. Let me read the whole thing. Alongside her announcement, she uploaded a photo with her growing baby bump. She has not publicly revealed the baby's sex, her due date, or the father's identity. She is known for her OnlyFans content, where she also slept with 1,000 men in a single day. Okay, easily to get these two mixed up because they are doing same thing. She said, I want to be the first person to be with 1,000 guys in one day. I'm quite excited. Obviously, it's stressful with all logistics and things, but it's daunting. She previously slept with 100 men in a single day. It's not for the weak, and if I'm honest, it was hard. I want to say something about that really quick. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable. She said it was hard. Not just, okay, yeah, there's the sex joke in there, but also like, no one's making you do this. It was hard. You say that about like, a diet. You said about like, no one's asking you to do this. Of course, like you don't have to, if it was hard, you don't have to do it. She said, I don't know if I'd recommend it. This is crazy. Okay. She says, quote, it's not for the weak. If I'm honest, it was hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it. Just one in and one out. It feels intense. I'd have to stop them early and you'd have to stand on business and say, I'm so sorry you have got to go. And the awkward interaction of you feeling pressure to satisfy them. What pressure? You don't have to do this. This is so crazy. On another show, she says, okay, sorry, now an ad just popped up. On another show, she said, I want children, but definitely later down on the line. I know that comes a lot of backlash. I understand that. I think when starting OnlyFans, I didn't want kids at the time. So it wasn't a problem to me because I thought through all of this, I knew if I started this, I wouldn't be able to get a normal job and it would affect my family's life and my kids' life. Okay, once again, I'm so confused. You don't have to do this.
Yeah, where did this idea...
This is so crazy to me. Like, did someone put a gun to her head? I don't understand. She's saying all this stuff like, that's so crazy. Okay, so anyway, one of the girls, so there's two girls, for people listening, I'm sure it was very confusing. So there's two girls who were trying to sleep with 1,000 men in one day. One of the girls pretended to be pregnant, and for whatever reason, that's the article I clicked first, and she's actually not pregnant. And then the other girl is pregnant, and that is interesting, and we can talk about that. But what I'm reading here is she's pregnant, and I'm just so confused why you don't have to do this. You don't have to do
Well, I think that
this.
also, like,
Anyway, what are
no,
your,
I was just
yeah, go
thinking,
ahead.
yeah, as a
As a
guy,
man,
I'm
what are your
like just
thoughts?
thinking about the culture, of our culture and how like it's come to this.
Yeah.
I would like to know with like the guys, did they know that she had this goal? What number were, were they, And I also just being a conservative, yeah, I just turned 30, so being in the 30 in the dating realm and stuff, and being a Christian and also conservative and stuff just in the dating realm, this is OnlyFans. This obviously is the extreme, but this is like the dating realm as a guy's perspective, girls. So do
Yeah.
this in, real life, not just in stories like this. So, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do we change the perspective? How do we make these conversations not awkward so that we could have these conversations as Christians, as conservatives, and condemn this kind of behavior, but also doing it in a loving way to where we're changing culture as well?
Yeah.
Because this should, and it's interesting because the first girl sounded like she says she was pregnant, but she is helping, correct me if I'm wrong, helping a girl, like donating her money that she gets through her OnlyFans to a woman that does want
Yeah.
to have a kid through IVF. There's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
positive thing in there, whatever your belief is with IVF. She obviously recognizes that people want kids and it is expensive, and using what she does, that I don't necessarily agree with how she gets her money, but using that money for helping someone else that wants a kid, like there's some light in there. There's some goodness in there. So how do we expand on that and change the culture, if that makes sense?
Yeah. No, that what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think the two things we need to get to the root to is like why someone would think that this is something that they should do. Why is the goal? Wood's my biggest thought is money, but there could be a million other reasons. I think that, and then I think also like what is the psychology behind a man that would sign up for this? Like, I don't understand like documentary. One of the girls like a documentary. I don't know which one because they look exactly
I
the
pulled
same
it
to
up
me.
and they do actually look
But one of the
very
girls
similar.
did a documentary. Yeah. And in the documentary, they didn't show people's faces, but there was like a line of men at this Airbnb where she was having it. And it was just like, I don't understand what is it that would possess a man or a woman to even want to participate in this. So I think we need to get to that. Like, for us to really make the change in the culture is to get down to that. Like, why has sex become this thing that is just so frivolous? That's just so, well, whatever, who cares? Like, with whoever, when, however. How did it become that? Because it wasn't like that before. I mean, obviously, there's always been like prostitution. What do they say? That's the oldest profession in the world. But like, it
Yeah.
absolutely wasn't this mainstream. And I will say, thankfully, the average woman is not having sex with 1,000 people. I think the average woman has sex with 5 people before they're married, and the average guy, I think, is like 7. That's still, a larger number than many of us Christians would like. But thankfully, it's not that level, but it's increasing, and the goal is to decrease. So we really do have to figure out like what is it? Because I think personally, a lot of it has to do with, I don't want to say not loving yourself because that's dumb, but like the aspect of not understanding why your sexuality, why your femininity from a female perspective, while that's so important. It's more than just she doesn't love herself. Like I don't know, she could, but like I think objectively we can all say that she does not understand the importance of that. And I think it's really just getting her and other women to do that. And even though, like I said, I think the average woman has sex with like 5 men, that's the average. There are still tons that have more than that. And with men too, there's still tons that have more than that. I mean, the goal is really just to like lower that number. And, ideally, sex between a married couple is like the goal. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's
So
also,
that's interesting. And then
no,
I
you
want to say
go.
this
Yeah.
really, no, because I'm going to I'm going to say something about pro-life, but
No,
you
I
say
was
your
gonna
thought and then
say,
I'll say
like, in my
pro-life.
opinion, like these kind of conversations and just these stories stuff like are uncomfortable. But personally, and my as like a Christian,
Yes.
and a guy, I think circling back to just creatives and pop culture were conservative creatives. So take the word conservative, but just Christian people with a different set of values when it comes to this topic, sex. Like the most important conversation that I'm gonna have about sex is with the opposite sex. It's going to be with the woman that I decide to ask to marry me, and I don't think that the church really prepares
Mm.
men or women, but for me being men, to have those conversations with women. And I think, and I'm speculating, and this is just
100%.
opinion thinking off the top of my head, no data to back it up, but maybe that is why, because we've made it such people just aren't talking about sex and how to kind of hold it as a sacred thing. We aren't talking about that on a day-to-day basis in our Christian community. It's always set with just guys or just girls, and guys are notorious for, not necessarily being
Hmm.
at church. I know that's a problem at my church that I personally attend to, and not a lot of guys.
Hmm.
And maybe that is why there's a line outside of this Airbnb of guys, because they didn't have the
Yeah.
I can't speak. The conversation that needed to be had to teach them how
Okay.
to keep it sacred. Just think it.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And you're right about the aspect of like, it's not talked about specifically to have the conversation between the two people. I mean, as Christians, like, especially now, we're both in our 30s. And when we're going into relationships, it's going to be a lot different than when I
Mhm.
was in my 20s. Like, when I was younger and in my teens, like, I would talk about it and like, not really. And like, it was just, I don't know. It's just, especially as Christians, just like taboo. But like now I feel like in my 30s, it's like, no, we have to discuss like this. We have to discuss where, like, what is your stance? And then how are we going to, like protect ourselves, but in the sense of like, not having sex, like who are going to be our accountability, stuff like that. And it's an awkward and uncomfortable conversation because you're right, because we don't have the conversations at church really with the opposite sex. We don't even know like the right ways to like bring it up and like how to get accountability and like stuff like that. I didn't even think about the fact that it's always separate, which I do think
Oh,
some things do
100%.
need to
Yeah.
be separate. Like I am pro separation, but I do think sometimes we should be having these bigger conversations. And since we're on this topic, like Valentine's Day was like what 2 weeks ago. Another thing about like this whole like Christians and dating and things like that is like there has to be a better way to have these like come on singles, let's have this conversation about dating. There has to be a better way to doing it because I just feel like I don't go to any more single things anymore like at church because like it's always the same thing. Love yourself, love God, he'll come. Okay, that's great. What okay, love yourself, check. Love God, check. Okay, like it's always the same advice. And I think there needs to be either more practical advice or, hear me out, maybe discussing what to do in the meantime. I feel like there's never that discussion of like, hey, maybe what if you don't get married till you're like 40? Are you supposed to keep like twiddling your thumbs? What if you don't get married till like you're 80? Obviously that sounds
Which
not ideal,
I just saw
but
on
that
TikTok
happens.
that
Like,
there was a woman that was going down the aisle, and I think she was like 70 something, 81, and her parents walked her in
yes,
the 90s.
she was in her, yeah, yeah, yeah. I did see that.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. Obviously, I don't think either one
True.
of us really want that, but we don't know. I think we both kind of are, that wouldn't be ideal, but like, you never know. So I do think like the church should do a better job at like kind of, if that is your path, like, what do you do? Because at least churches I've been to are really not good with like the singles ministry type of stuff. Like, it's not existent pretty much. But yeah, that's just my Valentine's Day loneliness rant. Let's see. Oh, I want to say this really quick about the pro-life thing. So pro-life perspective in Lily Phillips being pregnant. We don't know who the father is. Let's give two thoughts. Okay, let's scenario. Father is one of these 1,000 or 100 men, whichever one she did, or I think they both did 1,000. Let's say that it's one of those men. This is another example, and I talked about this with Ashley that's pregnant by Elon. It's one of those examples of like, if this is not an ideal situation to conceive. This wasn't conceived out of love. This child was not conceived out of, once again, we don't know. I'm assuming it's one of the random men. This child is still precious. This child still is an image bearer. The child is still important. I'm still happy that she has chosen life. This is great. This is good news that she has chosen life. It is difficult how to respond. As a friend, I would just be like, hey girl, well, it looks like you're gonna have to stop your business. Thank God. And then, move forward. But like, as just like a consumer of like internet content, this is also thinking about how do you respond to that. I think that, like, once again, the baby is a blessing. It's hard to say, it is hard to be like, yeah, hurrah, to something like this because of the conception. I think this is something that like a lot of pro-lifers, specifically Christian pro-lifers, kind of struggle with. And because you don't, and Lila Rose, who absolutely love, she's like my absolute favorite. Someone made a comment about Ashley, the whole thing. She said, well, actually, having a baby is not a sin. Having a baby out of wedlock is not a sin. The baby is not the sin. Sexual act, that was a sin, but the baby is not a sin. I think that's just something to always remember in these situations. Also, another thing to remember, you don't have to say anything. I mean, even with the Ashley and Elon thing, a lot of people were saying, and I'm like, you know what? You don't have to comment either way. It's not even really our business. I mean, it's fun to comment because, like, it's pop culture and things going on. But I just think that's something to remember. Like, it's so tough to how to react. I think the reaction is where it gets a little dicey and uncomfortable. Do you have any thoughts on like this pro-life aspect of her having sorry, wait, before you go. And then the other half is if this was intentional with a partner. I think that I would feel more comfortable saying congratulations. I'd be incredibly confused. I'd be interested in getting the interview from him for sure. Once again, it's not my business, but like I would like to hear from him if she has a partner and this was intentional. Yeah. But once again, the baby is still a blessing. The baby is still not a sin. I think that's something to always remember. The baby is not the sin. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, I love when you brought Lila Rose in and what she said, because I wholeheartedly agree. And I think also the pro-life movement is just so underappreciated, and I feel like we kind of have to take wins where we can see them. And I think that both women, one woman giving money to do the IVF, what like I said, whether you believe IVF is, the right way to go, she's at least is helping a woman, that is wanting, life and all that.
Yeah.
As well as the other woman that is pregnant, no matter how she got it, because we are not the sins of our parents, so, and the mistakes of our parents. So the fact that she's keeping the baby, as far as we know, that's a win. But so we got to take it where we can see the wins. But that's another thing with conservatism. It's like you kind of have to explain certain things. You know what I mean? It's like we want to be happy for these wins, but we wish it went this way. And that's why the left has taken over pop culture so much, because they don't have to explain themselves, but we do.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good thing to end on.